What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. You guys already know what it is. It's draft season all year long, and today we have a full 7-round mock draft here for the Seattle Seahawks. And the Seattle Seahawks are sitting in a great position here with 2 first-round picks, one of them being in the top 5 of the NFL draft. So without further ado, let's get this thing started. Hopefully you guys enjoy this new layout that we have here on the Draft Network. And the reason why I'm using the Draft Network now is because I did have a prior subscription to them before, and they have their mock draft simulator back up. PFF, on the other hand, is making you pay, so I don't want to have 2 subscriptions for 2 different draft simulators. So we're going to go ahead here, and I really like the format here where we can kind of see all of the picks in the round laid out in front of us. So we're going to go ahead and get this draft started here, and everything looks relatively normal right now. And so we are on the clock here. 2 minutes for our pick here for the Seahawks, picking number 5 overall. Now, I have a feeling that Jalen Carter's a great player, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like what's happened off the field recently with him, just with the incident with the cars, and then also him just gaining a lot of weight, I have a feeling that it is going to bring his draft stock down a little bit. And like, the football player is great, but there's just a lot of question marks about him off the field, and just such unfortunate timing for him. And so for that reason, I don't think Seattle is going to go with Jalen Carter here. I think we are going to go with one of the edge rushers instead, which is a huge priority at this point for this team. Uchenna Nwosu had a really solid season for them, but they do need a guy opposite. And so, is there still a real possibility that they do go with Jalen Carter here? Yes, I totally can see it here at number 5. I mean, just a phenomenal prospect. Some would argue is the number 1 overall player in this year's class. I just feel like the way that the Seahawks operate things, I think there is a huge emphasis on character. And just because that department is a little murky right now, I don't know if they feel so confident taking him there. So we're going to take the guy who I believe has a ton of upside in this year's class, and that's Tyree Wilson, just strictly based off of physical traits, right? Just has extremely long arms, is standing at about 6'7", 6'8". The versatility that he brings as well, just being able to play on the outside and the inside, can be a big-time contributor, no pun intended. So we're going to go ahead and take Tyree Wilson right there. We're going to see how the board unfolds here in round 1. Brian Brzee going all the way at pick number 9. It's not impossible, but that would certainly be an interesting selection right there. I would have assumed that he would be around our spot. And really quality players like Peter Skoronski here. Do you take a Peter Skoronski even though you have 2, upcoming tackles with Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross? I'm not sure. Bijan is still here. Quentin Johnson. Ooh, Jackson Smith and Jigba. John Michael Schmitz. And that's a huge priority for this team, the interior of the offensive line. We need to get ourselves another guard and a center as well. So I definitely think they have some plans with that, considering that they have about 4 picks in the top 50. So, okay. Kalijah Kancey, I think, would also be huge. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to stay true to my, draft philosophy, and that's just taking the best player available. And honestly, taking a look here, I understand that there are some glaring needs for this football team, but if Jackson Smith and Jigba is sitting here at number 20, I'm going to go ahead and snag him right here. I think that this is a player worth taking in the top 10 of this year's draft. If he's sitting here at 20, I'm going to take him every single time, right? You're going to have Metcalf, Lockett, and Smith and Jigba. That is going to be a group that absolutely no one wants to go up against. I don't care how good your defense is. That would be an insane trio to go up against. So we go ahead and get Tyree Wilson on the defensive side. We go ahead and get Jackson Smith and Jigba. I understand wide receiver isn't the biggest need, but look, and even Bijan is here. Bijan is here at 15. This one's a little different, and I'll tell you why, right? There's certain spots where you just have a lot of depth in, and Smith and Jigba would be a starter. Bijan, I think you could make the case for being the starter, but because Kenneth Walker had such a great season, I just see I just don't think that there's a way that Bijan gets on the field as much as you need him to be, considering how talented he is. Brian Branch, I think, would also be a huge addition to this football team. But I think it's time that we start taking a look at, the position of need right here. So a huge position of need, right? We're going to take a look at the interior defensive line. Still some pretty solid players I think that we could go ahead and get. Okay, so I'm not too concerned about that yet. There are some good names still out there. The interior of the offensive line, Osiris Torrance is still here. We desperately need a guard, so we're going to go ahead and get him here. I think he's better than any of the interior defensive linemen that are currently on the board. We do have some trade offers, but we do have 40 seconds as well. So we would be getting a third. I just think we're dropping down too much in that situation. This one as well. We're just dropping down too many picks. We're going to go ahead and take Osiris Torrance right here. So important to protect the quarterback. And considering that we have no depth and no talent at the guard and center position, yeah, we need to go ahead and address that when we can. So, okay, here we go. Sitting here, okay, we are here at pick 53 now. There are some really good centers still on the board here. We're going to take a look at the interior defensive line position. There's still some guys that I think could be some really key contributors in the run game, which was such a huge issue here for Seattle throughout the season. You did go out and get Draymond Jones, and then you shored up that linebacker spot with Devin Bush and Bobby Wagner now returning. So I do think that you will see some improvement just from those players alone, and it doesn't leave you with such a dire need. Although you could still upgrade, not as much of a dire need at the interior defensive lineman spot. So I'm going to go ahead and get the center right here. I couldn't even tell you who the center is. Like, even Kyle Fuller, I think, signed with another team who was the backup on this team, but was obviously a free agent. So we're going to go ahead and get Joe Tippmann. Joe Tippmann is someone that I view as the #1 center in this year's class. Now, we had to make some sacrifices because, as you can still see on this overall big board, there are some really, really talented players still on the board that we had to pass up on. But we can't go into the season. I love to draft best player available. I think that's the way that the draft should work. But again, there are some situations where teams are in such dire need for certain players that it just doesn't allow you that kind of freedom, and we're stuck in that situation there, which I'm not complaining that we have to take these players. I think Osiris Torrance is a phenomenal player, and as is Joe Tippmann. So I can't complain right now. I think we have like 4 starters right now with our first 4 picks. I can't complain. Really good tight ends on the board right here as well. And very interesting because we have Noah Fant on this team, right? Interesting. Really interesting. Oh, even Hendon Hooker. We can make things really interesting here. But Geno Smith was signed to a 3-year extension. I don't know if those 3 years are going to be guaranteed for him. I mean, no one knows. Could we have a potential, quarterback ready in line behind him? I'm not sure. Okay, taking a look at that interior defensive line spot, guys like Keandre Corbin, Jacqueline Roy. I've done my research on them, so I feel confident. I feel more comfortable taking them around this territory, with our late picks. But right here, man, there's some really good value on the board. Okay. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here, again, I think we're in a spot now because we addressed those offensive line positions. We can go best player available. I'm going to go Darnell Washington here. And, would kind of be playing a similar role to kind of how he was in college, where he might not be like the starting tight end on the team, but I think has the potential to become the starter at some point. And I think what I really like about this fit right here is that Pete Carroll loves to run the football. And so you put him in these heavy packages here and you allow him to be that blocking tight end, kind of set the edge. This would be a huge addition. I mean, this is a athletic tight end that possesses a ton of size. I mean, is an absolute mountain at the tight end position. I think this is a really big pickup here if you can get him in round 4. It's just too much value for us to pass up on at this point. Okay. And Hendon Hooker, who we were potentially discussing to take the round before, is still sitting here at pick 124. The age, the ACL, those are real concerns with him right now. I think round 4, if he's here, you got to take him. I really like the way that this is going right here. I mean, that is you're not giving him the reins. He has to earn it, that's for sure. And there's no commitment to him. He's a round 4 pick. Most of these guys in round 4, doesn't matter what position you are, don't end up being starters, but then there are a handful. And we could definitely put him in the conversation there. So I really like that right there. I'm really feeling confident about that Hendon Hooker pick right there. Just a pick with a lot of value, a lot of upside. So I'm really excited about that. Okay. What do we want to do here? We can still take a look at that IDL spot. Right? We can still take a look at that IDL spot. Just not feeling like super ecstatic right now. Maybe we could go Cameron Young. Again, a lot of these guys like, and it's interesting because this is like the second mock draft that I'm doing on this website on the Draft Network since their update, and I'm starting to realize that you know they really value like the position of the player and the team's needs over the overall rank of the big board. So that's something that I really need to start considering down the line because I mean we still haven't gotten that interior defensive lineman. And am I upset about that? Not really, to be honest, because I feel like we got some pretty damn good players, across our entire draft class so far. So I can't really complain. But we're at a spot now where I think we just go ahead and take best player available. What do we want to do here? Who do I like at this point? I really like Ronnie Bell. I also like Kendre Miller. I think Kendre Miller, see, this is someone that I'd feel more comfortable having as a complimentary back because I feel like, with Bijan and Kenneth Walker, there's going to be too much controversy about who should be starting. I think Kendre Miller wouldn't take over Kenneth Walker's spot, but would be a good complement to his game. Just has tremendous breakaway speed. I'm going to go ahead and take Kendre Miller right here. And again, even if he doesn't contribute early on as a running back specifically, I think would be a great addition to special teams as well, which many of these guys are in the later rounds anyway. So that would be interesting. You guys need to let me know what you guys think of the cornerback position. It's obviously not here on the list of glaring needs on this team, but I just feel like the position isn't the strongest, but there's a lot of youth and a lot of potential, and so I'm not sure that I want to really mess with that too much. So I'm not going to. I think I am going to get another wide receiver. Just taking a look at what the depth chart looks like now for this team, I'm just not feeling super confident about this wide receiver group. I understand you still have D. Eskridge, but, I mean, since he's been drafted, he just hasn't done much. So I'm not feeling too great about him either. We're going to go with Ronnie Bell right here out of Michigan. I feel like he's a big-time playmaker, pretty underrated. We can take a look right now at what the draft board looks like. Again, if you guys need to pause the video to take a look, there it is here. So that is the first round of the draft, and then you have like rounds 2 and 3 right here. It's just a nice format here where you can just kind of see everything that's going on here, and as we are simulating through round 5 of the NFL draft now. Let me know in the comment section below if you're still watching up until this point, if you guys even watch these late rounds, because they don't even announce every pick at this point during the NFL draft, It's kind of like Nikola Jokic, your team might be drafting when a Taco Bell commercial is going on, and that might be the next generational player. So, it is kind of the stale part of the draft that no one really cares about. Okay, round 6, pick 200 here. What do we want to do? I feel like Jacorian Bennett. I know I just talked about not needing a corner, but again, special teams, pivotal part, and can change the, outcome of a game in just a few seconds. So, and the momentum. So, that's a player that I really like at this point. I think I'm going to go ahead and take him. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take Jacorian Bennett here at pick 200. Just lit it up at the combine. Super athletic slot cornerback. And not bad in the slot either. Had a lot of pass breakups when you watch him in his career at Maryland. So, pretty solid pickup there. Could bring some really good value. Okay. And then I believe we have one more pick here in the 7th round. Yeah, pick 239 right here. So, aside from not really getting that interior defender, like I said, I think this team made enough additions in the offseason in free agency where it's not it is still a priority, but not as much as it was before, obviously. So it doesn't leave you in a position where you absolutely need to take a guy at that position as we did for these offensive line spots here. Let's see. We already got a couple of wide receivers, so I don't really want to do that. We just got ourselves a corner. We'll go edge right here. Oh, actually, you know what would be interesting? And they have him listed as an edge, but he does play interior defensive line. So we got our guy, Moro Ojomo, here, and I'll sell you guys on this one. Okay? Because I thought all hope was lost with our interior defensive lineman guy. Moro Ojomo is a 2-down guy who you're going to see come in on the early downs to primarily be a run stopper. Like, that was really his responsibility at Texas. So, again, he's not going to go super high in the draft for that reason. He's not going to be playing every down for you. But is the guy who's going to take up space in there, make sacrifices for other players to make plays up there. I think Moro Ojomo would be a really solid pick here in the 7th round. Would absolutely get himself into the rotation. Okay, I feel much better about this now. So we go ahead and get Tyree Wilson there at pick 5. Jackson Smith and Jigba, again, is someone that I value as a top 10 talent. We get him here at 20. Osiris Torrance and Joe Tippmann sure up that one missing spot at guard. You have Damian Lewis and now Osiris Torrance. I feel like that would be a really good duo there at guard. And then Joe Tippmann there at center, I feel like is the number 1 center in this year's class. I feel comfortable taking him here at 53. Darnell Washington, if he's there in round 3, we're taking him. Just an absolute specimen there. So I think we got really good value there. Same with Hendon Hooker here. You're not committing to him because he's a 4th round pick, but if he does turn out to be the player that a lot of us think he's be, which is a really talented player who almost won the Heisman with a ton of upside, that could be a great pick there at 124 as well. So again, sometimes you do sacrifice positional need to take best player available, but some of you guys see it as a sacrifice. I don't. I'm just going to use that word. But I'm happy with the way that this class turned out. Kendre Miller, Ronnie Bell, Jacorian Bennett, Moro Ojomo. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I hope you guys do too. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Most importantly, consider hitting that subscribe button if you like this mock draft, if you're a fan of the Seattle Seahawks, if you're a fan of the NFL draft. We're on the road to 600 subscribers. And until then, I will see you guys all later. Peace.